think it is fair to say we crushed Q1 in the U.S. We are on fire. You see this in our rule of 40 being 57. You see it in the 68% growth in U.S. commercial. If you do apples to apples, following on 70% growth last quarter, or 71% if you do apples to apples, taking out SPAC revenue. You see it in the deal growth in the U.S., growing from 70 to 136 in a year. You see it in the general enthusiasm around our products, especially in commercial, but also in government, which has begun to reaccelerate. You see it in general in our customer growth in U.S. comm, which grew 69%. And again, we are growing these numbers while maintaining a rule of 40 score of 57, which basically means we're doing the impossible. We are growing the company while investing in our core IP, or our software development. We are winning in the U.S. And then that kind of then leads to the question of, why are we doing so well in the United States of America? And the main reason is we built software infrastructure that allows enterprises, both commercial and government, to move beyond chat, move beyond self-pleasuring, to actually produce things that are valuable. And whether this is tasking satellites in the commercial context, or changing margins, or changing American workers into Japanese engineers using our software platform and large language models, I believe we are the only company in America, the only really relevant market, that will allow you to do useful things with large language models. And that is what's generating 68% growth in U.S. comm, again, with a nascent sales force, doing it in a way that is not kind of playbook specific, thin technology. It barely works, and you have a sales force, but with 10 years of IP that presupposed LLMs before LLMs existed. You see the same thing in the government. Shyam and others will talk about it, but our mission footprint, whether it's in Ukraine, Israel, or in the United States government, is stunning. There is basically no conflict in the world that is not that where Western allies are involved and the battlefield's involved and the stakes are life and death, where Palantir is not the first call. And our ability to do this going forward is going to be even stronger because of past investments, and also the unity of our culture and the strength of our leadership, and in general, 20 years of understanding how to do this. It is true that it is mystifying to people, including analysts, how could this possibly be working? But it is working. And this is the sixth quarter of profitability, I dare remind people that there was a time when no one thought we'd be profitable, when no one thought we could crack commercial, where revenue per person was called into question. That also grew roughly 26% year on year. Revenue per person generated at Palantir. We do have headwinds in Europe. 16% of our business is in Europe. Europe is gliding towards 0% GDP growth over the next couple of years. That is a problem for us. There is no easy remedy for that. It is also the case, though, that U.S. comm surpassed U.S. European commercial, and we see that as favorable. I, in general, think this is just Palantir's time. Now, there are lots of questions about why we are so active in defending the values of the West. Our belief that the West is a superior way to live, and our ways of organizing around that, are the reason why our products are transformative, the reason why we have the best people in the world, the reason why a Palantir degree, as it were, is much more valuable than an Ivy League degree. Before the Ivy Leagues even, embraced the thin, new, woke religion, otherwise viewed as an intellectual cause, but in fact is a way of organizing things so that the greatest institutions of our time disappear and turn into discriminatory dysfunction. Palantir is a counterexample, and I'm super proud of the results. We are going to continue to execute, especially in the U.S. I don't believe we have competitors. So I don't believe in the U.S. commercial market we have competition. I don't believe in the U.S. government market we have competition. I think that's the reason Ukraine and Israel bought our product. We are differentiated because in order to actually make AI work, you need an ontology. No one has an ontology. To Shyam's point, you have a lot of people running around saying the data isn't ready. Of course it's not ready because they don't have Foundry. If you have Foundry and the ontology, it is ready. If you have Foundry, our ontology and Apollo, you can actually work at the edge. If you don't, you can't. And outside of America, we would still have to convince people of this. Inside of America, we're not really convincing people that we have the only thing that works. We're showing up, we're showing it working, and we're saying this is what it costs, and it's working really well. But I currently, I don't believe we have competition. We have a lot of people who are like the Palantir of Iowa or the Palantir of Harvard or the Palantir of Uruguay, but they're not Palantir. And it's going to take a long time to actually build what we have, because you'd have to actually understand what is special about the software infrastructure of having the combination of Apollo, Foundry, and the ontology. And then you would have to build on top of it so that you can actually do these handoff functions with large language models. And luckily for us, there is not a consensus at the investor level, VC level, or among analysts that we have the only thing that works, and that means there's just going to be very little investment in copying and doing what we do. And investment in what we do outside of America would be hard to do anyway, because the ecosystem, a term I don't particularly like, to get this done is in America. So you would have to do this in Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley is focused on, to Shyam's point, the wrong things. The boot camps also have, quite frankly, another massive advantage, because de facto it sets a standard that will be very hard for any other company to meet. So even if you don't buy our product, you de facto have locked in an idea of what's possible. And that means that at some point when you go try your own thing and it fails, you've seen, okay, well, I've seen the art of the possible, and therefore I'm going to go buy it from Palantir at some point in the future. The boot camp motion is an early motion, and I don't think we would say we've cracked the sales motion. In fact, I think our 68% or 94% growth on deals, or 69% on customer, you have to look at this as we are at the way early days of figuring out how to actually get customers to buy our product. We are good at educating customers on what is the art of the possible, and then some portion of those customers buy it. So I expect as we get better and better at that, our numbers will increase. But it is really early days. We're not flawlessly executing on our sales motion. And I would say I saw this when we built our anti-terror platform. One of the most important things we did is go out and educate the world about how you could fight terror and maintain civil liberties. And most people we actually offered our platform to did not buy the product year one, but by year 5, they'd all bought it. And they bought it because they're like, okay, well, we see how you could integrate data across disparate data sets, maintain a security model, fight terrorism, and be in conformity with the law. And even if you say, oh, I'm going to go try to do this myself, in fact, you can't. And then that sales motion, so the relevant integral for this is not just what you close in quarter. It is kind of throwing a carpet on the whole market and saying, okay, well, this is the standard. If you can do better than this, buy it yourself, build it yourself, acquire it from other people. And if you can't, come back to us, we're here. And that worked very, very well. I mean, almost every country in the world, not every country, but almost every country in the world that could buy our core anti-terror product at some point did. So we have across our company for the first time ongoing discussions with hyperscalers that are well known and with others, where we're basically saying, look, we have the ideal product, you have the ideal distribution, you can build on top of our product and then capture your distribution at a higher margin. We are having discussions like this in Japan across UHG, but we have our efforts to provide our core infrastructure to defense tech startups, which are going very well, simultaneously allow us to expand our core architecture, core software development into the DoD, but also make us less competitive with people, which helps us a lot. So a lot of what slows us down is people pretending they're competing with us. So finding ways to build partnerships with those people so they don't compete accelerates our revenue. And in US Comm, it's a lot of what Shyam is saying. It's we are allowing customers to do what we had to do in the past, which is supply Palantir software engineers. There are just not that many Palantirians, so we can't scale. We have to allow encourage and provide a platform where they can do it. And I would say what you see both on AIP and on Foundry is de facto customers using our product pretty much on their own. And that's, again, why that you see a revenue growth up to 26% compared to last year on per person revenue, because we're making more money with the same number of people, but roughly. So, and that's precisely because of these things that we're doing. And so that has a lot of benefits for us, both alignment and quality of revenue. That's why you have this rule of, that's why we have 57 on the rule of 40. That's why our revenue is growing per person. That's why we can get away with sales that are not perfect. And we're thinking a lot about how to do that. I think internally, I mean, there have been people who have disagreed. There have been people who have disagreed to the point where they've left. And this has gone on over the last 20 years. When we refused to walk away from special forces, the U.S. Army, when we took over Maven, when we refused to stop working with Homeland Security, when we had discussions about which countries we'd work with and which countries we wouldn't. More lately, in a more timely version, when we supported Ukraine, that was less controversial. When we sold Israel our software, that was arguably more controversial. The fact that I take, I think the central risk to Palantir and America and the world is a regressive way of thinking that is corrupting and corroding our institutions, that calls itself progressive, but actually, and is called woke, but is actually a form of a thin pagan religion. That is a real danger to our society. And it is a real danger to Palantir if we don't discuss these things. The reason we have by far the best product offering in the world is because we have by far the best alignment around how to build software, what it means to build software, full alignment with our customers, a view that the Western way of living is superior and therefore it should be supported by the best products. People at this table have been in the trenches for over a decade each. Why do they stay? Why do they fight? Why do we come and do these calls? Why are we fighting for individual investors? Why do we actually care about revenue growth in quarter? I mean, honestly, everyone at this table has a lot of money. It's like we care and we fight for these things because we believe we are fighting for a stronger, better, less discriminatory, wealthier, more open, and better society by providing the friends of the West, U.S. industry, U.S. government, our allies, with by far superior products. And that's, by the way, and that's how we align with our customers. By the way, I have customers who disagree with me, but they sure as hell know I'm telling them the truth about what we believe. And probably more importantly, they know we're not sophists. They know we believe in things. And that's why we fight for this culture, and that's why we fight for our products. And that's why our products are growing. Again, you can repeat all these numbers over and over again. How do you get 68% growth in U.S. comm with a 57 rule of 40? How do you nearly double your customer count, your deal count, your customer count, all these numbers? You do it by having full alignment and the best products in the world. Or you can do it by having weird things that barely work and trying to manipulate clients into buying your product until they realize it barely works because it's thin and of no value. And that's just not how we roll at Palantir. So it has been really, and by the way, on the last note, how do we have the best investors in the world, especially individual investors? Why do they stick with us when times were hard? Why do they fight for Palantir? Why do they, every time someone writes something inane, Palantir's gone MAGA, Palantir's doesn't have a product, Palantir doesn't have margins. I'm sure this quarter, Palantir's growth is decelerating despite the fact we're obviously crushing it in America. Palantir is too crazy. Palantir will never be profitable. Palantir can't IPO. Palantir is too weird and odd to produce something that will be disruptive. We knew it was bullshit. The people who out on the front fighting against that BS, fighting against lazy, inept, discriminatory in the sense that is ignorance, people maligning Palantir, do it in great part because they believe that we are fighting for them, and we are. And we're fighting for ourselves, and that's why we have such a great company.